Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Welcome to the Sri Vidya Temple's chanting class. Today we're focusing on Medha Suttam, and we actually had the first class on it already. So we'll be starting in the middle, and then once we go through all of the lines, we can do some review of all the lines. So we'll start from the line towards the end, Urjaspati Payasa. So that's where we'll be starting. So Sriji, can you repeat the lines?
Yeah, sure.
Yes. Okay. All right. So for those who may be new to the classes, the way we do it is I chant one section or line, and then somebody, either Sriji or somebody else, will repeat that 2 times. So you all can keep yourselves muted while you're practicing, but Sriji will be unmuted and he'll be repeating the lines. So we'll start with the Ganapati prayer. Om Shuklam Baradharam Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyayet Sarva Viknopashantaye. Urjasvati
Urjaswati, Urjaswati,
Payasa
Payasa, Payasa,
Urjasvati Payasa
Urjaswati, Payasa, Urjaswati, Payasa,
Pinvamana
Pinvamana, Pinvamana,
Urjaspati Payasa Pinvamana
Urjasvati Payasa Pinvamana Urjasvati Payasa Pinvamana
Sama
Sama Sama
Sama Medha
Sama Medha Sama Medha
Supratika Jushantam
Supratika dushantam Supratika dushantam.
So the last word starts with a ja. Is that what you have in your text?
Yeah,
Jushantam?
Jushantam.
Okay.
Jushantam. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll do it one more time. Supratika Jushantam
Supratika jushantam Supratika jushantam
Sama Medha Supratika Jushantam
Sama Medha Supratika jushantam Sama Medha Supratika jushantam.
Okay, now I'm going to chant the first part of the line by myself. I'll do it 4 times so everyone can repeat along. Urjaspati Payasa Pinvamana Urjaspati Payasa Pinvamana Urjaspati ऊर्जस्वती पयसा पिन्वमाना ऊर्जस्वती पयसा पिन्वमाना. Now, Sriji, can you repeat that section 4 times?
ऊर्जस्वती पयसा पिन्वमाना ऊर्जस्वती पयसा पिन्वमाना ऊर्जस्वती पयसा पिन्वमाना ऊर्जस्वती पयसा पिन्वमाना.
Now I'll do the second part of the line 4 times. Sama medha supratika jushantam. Sama medha supratika jushantam. Sama medha supratika jushantam. Sama medha supratika jushantam. Now, Sriji.
मेधा सुप्रतीका जुषन्ताम् सामा मेधा सुप्रतीका जुषन्ताम् सामा मेधा सुप्रतीका जुषन्ताम् सामा मेधा सुप्रतीका जुषन्ताम्.
So now I'll do the same thing with the full line. Urjasvati payasa pinvamana sama medha supratika jushantam. Urjaspati payasa pinvamana sama medha supratika jushantam. Urjaspati payasa pinvamana sama medha supratika jushantam. Urjaspati payasa pinvamana sama medha supratika jushantam.
ऊर्जस्वती पयसा पिन्वमाना सामा मेधा सुप्रतीका जुषन्ताम् ऊर्जस्वती पयसा पिन्वमाना सामा मेधा सुप्रतीका जुषन्ताम् ऊर्जस्वती पयसा पिन्वमाना सामा मेधा सुप्रतीका जुषन्ताम् ऊर्जस्वती पयसा पिन्वमाना सामा मेधा सुप्रतीका जुषन्ताम्.
So before we go on to the next line, does anyone have any questions on that line, the pronunciation of any of the words? You can put a question in the chat area, or you can unmute yourself and ask. If not, then we'll go on to the next line. Mahi medham.
मयि मेधां मयि मेधां
Maya prajam.
मयि prajam mayi prajam
Mahi medham maya prajam
mayi medham mayi prajam mayi medham mayi prajam
Mayi yagnis
mayi agnis mayi agnis
Mayi yagnis tejo
Mai Agnis Tejo Mai Agnis Tejo
Mayi yagnis tejo dadhatu
Mai Agnis Tejo Dadhatu Mai Agnis Tejo Dadhatu.
So now I'll do the second part of the line 4 times in a row. Mayi yagnis tejo dadhatu Mayi yagnis tejo dadhatu Mayi yagnis tejo dadhatu Mayi yagnis tejo dadhatu. Sriji?
Mai Agnis Tejo Dadhatu Mai Agnis Tejo Dadhatu Mai Agnis Tejo Dadhatu Mai Agnis Tejo Dadhatu.
Now I'll do that whole section 4 times. Mahi medham maya prajam mayi yagnis tejo dadhatu Mahi medham maya prajam mayi yagnis tejo dadhatu Mahi medham maya prajam mayi yagnis tejo dadhatu. Sriji?
Mai Medham Mai Prajam Mai Agnis Tejo Dadhatu Mai Medham Mai Prajam Mai Agnis Tejo Dadhatu Mai Medham Mai Prajam Mai Agnis Tejo Dadhatu Mai Medham Mai Prajam Mai Agnis Tejo Dadhatu.
So one thing to notice in this line or this section is that there's holding when you say medham mayi, mayi. So even though it's the same sound, that sound, there's holding there. Medham mayi and also prajam mayi. So we don't want to gloss over that or forget the holding there. Okay, so now I'll go on to the next line. So you can see that there's a pattern. There's a repeating of Mayi Medham, Maya Prajam. So I'll just go on to the second part of the line. Mahindra.
Mahindra Mahindra
Indriyam.
Indriyam Indriyam
Mahindra Indriyam.
Mahindra Indriyam Mahindra Indriyam
Dadhatu.
Dadhatu Dadhatu.
So here you want to be just paying attention that even though the dhatu is being repeated, the swaras are different. So you always want to make sure you're looking at the swaras for the word, even if the word is the same, sometimes the melody may change. So you want to watch out for that. Now I'll do the whole section. Mahindra Indriyan Dadhatu.
मयीन्द्र इन्द्रियं दधातु मयीन्द्र इन्द्रियं दधातु.
Now I'll chant that section 4 times in a row. Oh, before I do that, just want to point out that in the word indriyam, you may have noticed that it's pronounced as indriyan when the dhatu follows. So that's that at the end of the word is what we call anuswara, and that's what changes pronunciation based on what follows it. So because the dhatu begins with the, that anuswara is pronounced like an. Indriyan dadhatu. Okay, just want to explain that. Mahindra indriyan dadhatu. Mahindra
मयि
indriyan dadhatu. Mahindra indriyan dadhatu. Mahindra indriyan dadhatu. Sweetie?
मयीन्द्र इन्द्रियं दधातु मयीन्द्र इन्द्रियं दधातु मयीन्द्र इन्द्रियं दधातु मयीन्द्र इन्द्रियं दधातु.
Okay, now I'll do the whole line 4 times in a row. Mahimedham maya prajam mahindra indriyan dadhatu. 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 Sweetie?
मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मयीन्द्र इन्द्रियं दधातु मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मयीन्द्र इन्द्रियं दधातु मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मयीन्द्र इन्द्रियं दधातु मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मयीन्द्र इन्द्रियं दधातु.
Okay, so now for the next line, I'll start with just the second part. Mahi suryo
मयि सूर्यो मयि सूर्यो
bhrajo
भ्राजो भ्राजो
Mahi suryo bhrajo
मयि सूर्यो भ्राजो मयि सूर्यो भ्राजो.
And here notice the holding on obrajo. So we don't say suryo bhrajo, suryo bhrajo. There's holding on the bra because it's a conjunct sound. Mayi suryo bhrajo dadhatu.
मयि सूर्यो भ्राजो दधातु मयि सूर्यो भ्राजो दधातु.
Now I'll chant it 4 times. Mahi suryo bhrajo dadhatu. Mahi suryo bhrajo dadhatu. Mahi suryo bhrajo dadhatu. Mahi suryo bhrajo dadhatu.
मयि सूर्यो भ्राजो दधातु मयि सूर्यो भ्राजो दधातु मयि सूर्यो भ्राजो दधातु मयि सूर्यो भ्राजो दधातु.
Now I'll do the whole line 4 times. Mahi medham maya prajam mahi suryo bhrajo dadhatu mahi medham maya prajam mahi suryo bhrajo dadhatu mahi medham maya prajam mahi suryo bhrajo dadhatu mahi medham maya prajam mahi suryo bhrajo dadhatu
मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मयि सूर्यो भ्राजो दधातु मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मयि सूर्यो भ्राजो दधातु मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मयि सूर्यो भ्राजो दधातु मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मयि सूर्यो भ्राजो दधातु.
So this is actually all one line, even though I've split it up a little bit to make it easier for learning. So it is meant to be chanted in one flow. So I'll do the first 2 sort of sections and I'll repeat those 4 times. And that way you can get some practice of that. Mahi medham maya prajam mahi yagnistejo dadhatu mahi medham maya prajam mahindra indriyan dadhatu mahi medham maya prajam mahi yagnistejo dadhatu mahi medham maya prajam mahindra indriyan dadhatu mahi medham maya prajam mahi yagnistejo dadhatu mahi medham maya prajam mahindra indriyan dadhatu mahi medham maya prajam mahi yagnistejo dadhatu mahi medham maya prajam mahindra indriyan dadhatu. Sriji?
मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मयि यज्ञस्तेजो दधातु मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मयीन्द्र इन्द्रियं दधातु मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मयि यज्ञस्तेजो दधातु मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मयीन्द्र इन्द्रियं दधातु मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मयि यज्ञस्तेजो दधातु मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मयीन्द्र इन्द्रियं दधातु मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मयि यज्ञस्तेजो दधातु मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मयीन्द्र इन्द्रियं दधातु.
So notice how there's no pause after the dhatu when there's a word that comes after it. So just keep that in mind. Don't add a pause in that place. Now I'll do the whole line and I'll do that 4 times. Mayi medham maya prajam mayi yajnistejo dadhatu mayi medham maya prajam mahindra indriyan dadhatu mayi medham maya prajam mahi suryo bhrajo dadhatu Mahi medham maya prajam mahi yajnistejo dadhatu mahi medham maya prajam mahindra indriyan dadhatu mahi medham maya prajam mahi suryo bhrajo dadhatu Mahi medham maya prajam mahi yajnistejo dadhatu mahi medham maya prajam mahindra indriyan dadhatu mahi medham maya prajam mahi suryo bhrajo dadhatu Mahi medham maya prajam mahi yajnistejo dadhatu mahi medham maya prajam mahindra indriyan dadhatu mahi medham maya prajam mahi suryo bhrajo dadhatu
मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मयि यज्ञस्तेजो दधातु मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मयीन्द्र इन्द्रियं दधातु मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मयि सूर्यो भ्राजो दधातु मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मयि यज्ञस्तेजो दधातु मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मयीन्द्र इन्द्रियं दधातु मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मयि सूर्यो भ्राजो दधातु मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मयि अग्निस्तेजो दधातु मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मयीन्द्र इन्द्रियं दधातु मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मयि सूर्यो भ्राजो दधातु मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मयि अग्निस्तेजो दधातु मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मयीन्द्र इन्द्रियं दधातु मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मयि सूर्यो भ्राजो दधातु.
So this is actually a very beautiful prayer asking Medha Devi to give us the light of Agni. So we should shine with the brilliance of Agni himself. And Indriyam, our senses, should be very pure and accurate. We should be able to see clearly, hear clearly, and have right understanding through our senses. And then in the final part, it's asking for the light of the sun. So this is like a connection with Gayatri Mantra in a sense. So it's really a very beautiful prayer asking for divine light to illuminate our consciousness and our intelligence. So this is actually the end of Medha Suttam. The next part I included because it's included in the book Mantra Pushpam. In some traditions, they'll actually chant this Hamsa Gayatri mantra at the end of Medha Suttam. I don't think Chalakere brothers do that. So technically this isn't, necessarily for Saraswati Devi. The Hamsa obviously is her vehicle. So I guess that's the connection. And probably in some traditions or some pathashalas, they may chant this mantra at the end of Medha Suttam. So I think we can skip that. But definitely we should try some review of the lines because The earlier lines are longer and a little bit tricky, and it does take quite a bit of review to get those. So I'm going to spend a little time going back to the beginning and reviewing those lines. So I think I'll do the same thing because repetition is really important. The reason why I'm doing this 4 lines and then Sriji does 4 lines is because it really drills, once you have the words, like the basic words and everything, really the way to drill it into your brain and get it correct is to repeat the lines and many times over. It's really the only way to learn. So I think we'll continue that. So I'll do the first line 4 times. Om Medha Devi Joshamarna na aga Vishwaji Bhatra Sumanasya Mana. Om Medha Devi Joshamarna na aga Vishwaji Bhatra Sumanasya Mana. Om Medha Devi Joshamarna na aga Vishwaji Bhatra Sumanasya Mana. Om Medha Devi Joshamarna na aga Vishwaji Bhatra Sumanasya Mana. And Sriji, now can you do 4 times?
Om Medha Devi Joshamarna na agaat Dvishvache Bhadra Sumanasya Mana. Om Medha Devi Joshamarna na agaat Dvishvachi Bhadra Sumanasya Mana. Om Medha Devi Joshamarna na agaat Vishwachi Bhadra Sumanasya Mana. Om Medha Devi Joshamarna na agaat Vishwachi Bhadra Sumanasya Mana.
And so if anybody needs or has a question about any of the words that we're doing, feel free to just add your question in the chat box and we can focus on that area. Otherwise, we'll continue with the review. But if you have any questions, feel free to let us know. Tvaya Joshta Nodamana Doruktaan Bruhadvadema Vedathe Suvira Aha. Tvaya Joshta Nodamana Doruktaan Bruhadvadema Vedathe Suvira Aha. Tvaya Jushta Nodamana Doruktaan Bruhadvadema Vidathe Suvira Aha. Tvaya Jushta Nodamana Doruktaan Bruhadvadema Vidathe Suvira Aha.
Tvaya Jushta Nudamana Duruktaan Brihadvadema Vidathe Suvira Aha. Tvaya Jushta Nudamana Duruktaan Brihadvadema Vidathe Suvira Aha. Tvaya Jushta Nudamana Duruktaan Brihadvadema Vidathe Suvira Aha. Tvaya Jushta Nudamana Duruktaan युक्तान् बृहद्वदेम विदधे सुवीराः.
Next line. Tvaya jushtarushirбhavati devi tvaya brahma gata shri rutattvaya tvaya jushtarushirбhavati devi tvaya brahma gata shri rutattvaya Tvaya jushtarushirбhavati devi tvaya brahma gata shri rutat tvaya tvaya jushtarushirбhavati devi tvaya brahma gata shri rutat tvaya
त्वया जुष्टऋषिर्भवति देवि त्वया ब्रह्मा गतः श्रीरुतत्वया त्वया जुष्टऋषिर्भवति देवि त्वया ब्रह्मा गतः श्रीरुतत्वया त्वया जुष्टऋषिर्भवति देवि त्वया ब्रह्मा गतः श्रीरुतत्वया त्वया जुष्टऋषिर्भवति देवि त्वया ब्रह्मा गतः श्रीरुतत्वया.
Now the next line. Tvaya jushtaschitram vindate vasosano jushasvatra virno namedhe Tvaya jushtaschitram vindate vasosano jushasvatra virno namedhe Tvaya jushtaschitram vindate vasosano jushasvatra virno namedhe Tvaya jushtaschitram vindate vasosano jushasvatra virno namedhe
त्वया जुष्टश्चित्रं विन्दते वसुसानो जुषस्वद्रविणो न मेधे त्वया जुष्टश्चित्रं विन्दते वसुसानो जुषस्वद्रविणो न मेधे त्वया जुष्टश्चित्रं विन्दते वसुसानो जुषस्वद्रविणो न मेधे त्वया जुष्टश्चित्रं विन्दते वसुसानो जुषस्वद्रविणो न मेधे.
Next line. Medham Indro dadatu medhan Devi Saraswati Medham Indro dadatu medhan Devi Saraswati Medham Indro dadatu medhan Devi Saraswati Medham Indro dadatu medhan Devi Saraswati
मेधाम् इन्द्रो ददातु मेधान् देवी सरस्वती मेधाम् इन्द्रो ददातु मेधान् देवी सरस्वती मेधां म इन्द्रो ददातु मेधां देवी सरस्वती मेधां म इन्द्रो ददातु मेधां देवी सरस्वती.
Now the next line. Medham me ashwina vobhava dhattam pushkarasraja. Medham me ashwina vobhava dhattam pushkarasraja. Medham me ashwina vobhava dhattam pushkarasraja. Medham me ashwina vobhava dhattam pushkarasraja.
मेधां मे अश्विना वुभावाधत्तां पुष्करस्रजा मेधां मे अश्विना वुभावाधत्तां पुष्करस्रजा मेधां मे अश्विना वुभावाधत्तां पुष्करस्रजा मेधां मे अश्विना वुभावाधत्तां पुष्करस्रजा.
Now the next line. Apsarasu chaya medha gandharveshu chayanmanah. Apsarasu chaya medha gandharveshu chayanmanah. Apsarasu chaya medha gandharveshu chayanmanah. Apsarasu chaya medha gandharveshu chayanmanah.
अप्सरासु च या मेधा गन्धर्वेषु च यन्मनः अप्सरासु च या मेधा गन्धर्वेषु च यन्मनः अप्सरासु च या मेधा गन्धर्वेषु च यन्मनः अप्सरासु च या मेधा गन्धर्वेषु च यन्मनः.
Next line. Daivi medha saraswati samam medha surabhir joshata goswaha. Daivi medha saraswati samam medha surabhir joshata goswaha. Daivi medha saraswati samam medha surabhir joshata goswaha. Daivi medha saraswati samam medha surabhir joshata goswaha.
दैवी ईं मेधा सरस्वती सामा आं मेधा सुरभिर्जुषता गुस्वाहा दैवी ईं मेधा सरस्वती सामा आं मेधा सुरभिर्जुषता गुस्वाहा दैवीं मेधा सरस्वती समां मेधा सुरभिर्जुषता गुस्वाहा दैवीं मेधा सरस्वती समां मेधा सुरभिर्जुषता गुस्वाहा.
Now the next line. Ama medha surabhirvishwarupa hiranyavarna jagati jagamya. Ama medha surabhirvishwarupa hiranyavarna jagati jagamya. Ama medha surabhirvishwarupa hiranyavarna jagati jagamya. Ama medha surabhirvishwarupa hiranyavarna jagati jagamya.
Ama medha surabhirvishwarupa hiranyavarna jagati jagamya. Ama medha surabhirvishwarupa hiranyavarna jagati jagamya. Ama medha surabhirvishwarupa hiranyavarna jagati jagamya. Ama medha surabhirvishwarupa hiranyavarna jagati jagamya.
Okay, so that's everything that we had done from the first session. So now what I'd like to do is put it all together. So I'll be chanting the entire Medha Suttam. So everybody can just do your best to follow along, see if it feels natural enough to chant the whole thing all together. Okay, so I'll start that. Om Medha Devi Joshamarna na Agaat Twishwachi Bhatra Sumanasya Mana Tvaya Jushta Nodamana Duruktaan Prahadvadema Vidathe Suvira Aha Tvaya Jushta Rushir Devitvaya Brahma Gata Shri Rutatvaya Tvaya Jushtaschitram Vindate Vasusano Jushaswat Travino Namedhe Medham Ma Indro Dadatu Medhan Devi Saraswati Medham Me Ashwina Vobhavadhattam Pushkarasraja Apsara Suchaya Medha Gandharveshu Chayan Manaha Daiviim Medha Saraswati Samaam Medha Surabhirjushata Goswaha Ama Medha Surabhirvishwarupa Hiranyavarna Jagati Jagamya Urjas पयसा पिन्वमाना सामां मेधा सुप्रतीकाजुषन्ताम् महि मेधां मय प्रजां मय्यग्निस्तेजो दधातु महि मेधां मय प्रजां महीन्द्र इन्द्रियं दधातु महि मेधां मय प्रजां महि सूर्यो भ्राजो दधातु. So Sriji, do you want to chant it one time through?
Sure, I'll try. ॐ मेधा देवी जुषमाणा न आगात् द्विष्वाचि भद्रासु मनस्यमाना त्वया जुष्टानुदमाना दुरुक्तान् बृहद्वदेम विदधे सुवीराः त्वया जुष्टऋषिर्भवति देवि त्वया ब्रह्मा गतः श्रीरुतत्वया त्वया जुष्टश्चित्रं विन्दते वसुसानो जुषस्वद्रविणो न मेधे मेधां म इन्द्रो ददातु मेधां देवी सरस्वती मेधां मे अश्विना बुभावा धत्तां पुष्करस्रजा अप्सरासु च या मेधा गन्धर्वेषु च यन्मनः दैवी ईं मेधा सरस्वती सामां मेधा सुरभिर्जुषता गुस्वाहा आमा आं मेधा सुरभिर्विश्वरूपा हिरण्यवर्णा जगती जगम्या ऊर्जस्वती पयसा पिन्वमाना सामां मेधा सुप्रतीकादुषन्ताम् मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मयि यज्ञस्तेजो दधातु मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मयीन्द्र इन्द्रियं दधातु मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मयि सूर्यो भ्राजो दधातु.
Okay, so does anybody have any questions about any of the lines or need any extra review of anything? We only have a few more minutes, but if anyone has any questions, you can feel free to ask now. So this is something that you can chant on its own, just as parayanam, as you know, if you want to do it in the morning or in the evening as part of your prayers. You can chant it by itself. You can also chant it during any like puja if you're doing abhishekam. It's a very nice thing to chant during any Devi puja, especially if it were Saraswati puja, but any puja you can chant during abhishekam. And also it can also be used during homa. There was one year in the temple during Navaratri when the theme for that year was the three Devis, so Saraswati, Lakshmi, and Durga Devi. So on 3 of the days for Saraswati, we chanted this Medha Suttam and offered it as homam. So that can also be done. There might be some slight like changes in the swaras because you're adding the swaha at the end. But that's a very nice thing to do as well. And again, the blessings are for learning and intelligence and memory, but also even beyond that, really for divine wisdom and also like Brahmajnana and Brahmananda. So the highest knowledge, which is really spiritual knowledge, which is beyond words and concepts and everything like that. So it's really a very beautiful and vast suktam, you know, something like Tvaya Jushta Rishir Bhavati. The idea is that we become a rishi by the grace of Saraswati Devi. When she's satisfied with our sadhana and our efforts, she has the power to make us like a rishi. And the rishis were ones who were able to see mantras and hear the divine mantras vibrating in the cosmos. So that's the blessing that she gives us, not just doing well in our studies, but to have that highest level of knowledge. So I see there's a comment. Um, Someone is asking second line. So is that Toya Jushta Nudamana Duruktan? Okay, so I'll do that one. Toya Jushta Nudamana Duruktan Brihadvadema Vidate Suvira Aha Tvaya Jushta Nudamana Duruktaan Bruhadvadema Vidate Suvira Aha. Is that clear? Is there any particular section that's not clear? Okay, so hopefully that's clear to everyone. And again, I posted the link for Chalakere Brothers chanting Medha Suttam, so I highly, highly, highly recommend listening to that. And like Sriji mentioned, slow down the speed so that it's a little bit easier to catch what they're saying, because they tend to chant at a pretty, you know, typical Vedic Pandit pace, which is a little bit fast. And when they're chanting that fast, it's a little bit hard to hear the swaras all the time. So definitely slow it down. If you're not sure how to do that, just let us know and we'll post a screenshot or something showing you where you can slow down the speed. And I see there's a question. Okay, actually I'm getting a message that the Zoom is needed for another meeting. So I'm going to, so I see one question, Suvira and Swaha chanted the same way. So I'll address that in the Telegram group. I'll answer that later. Okay, so I'm going to close the class now. Thank you very much for joining and see you next time.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.